The Turkish lira has been collapsing since about 2008, and many people do not understand why. Turkey is a developing but potentially powerful country. The Turkish economy is very dynamic, thanks to a highly educated and hardworking population. But then, what happened? Should we blame everything on its illustrious and much criticized President Erdogan, or are there deeper reasons? Come on, let's go. I was talking about Erdogan in the introduction because he is a very controversial character. However, he was elected in 2014 while the root of Turkey's problems started in 2005. This is a chart to keep in mind, the external debt ratio. Older people remember the severe economic crisis of the early 2000s, and we find the same spike on the graph, an external debt problem. Let's start again. As I said, Turkey is a young country with a dynamic and skilled labor force. To know a bit about the potential of this country, I can tell you that the Turkish engineer can make the American or European engineer tremble because he is 3 to 5 times more profitable. He works more and his productivity is all the greater as the Turkish lira is weak. The basic problem in Turkey is that its domestic savings are insufficient to meet its financing needs. The option chosen on several occasions over the last few decades, as is often the case with emerging countries, is to borrow in dollars or euros because interest rates are low, in order to invest in Turkey at high interest rates. One of my readers has been telling me for years that he finds 10 to 15% with bank investments. The problem when you get in debt in dollars as an emerging country is that you forget that the exchange rate of your currency depends on the quantity of dollars in circulation in the world. To put it simply, the amount of dollars in circulation expands during periods of economic growth and contracts, sometimes sharply during recessions or financial crisis. Turkey had made enormous efforts between 2000 and 2005 to reduce this debt. Turkey has become financially stable again. The problem is that the external debt increased again with Turkey's growth, and the 2008 crisis caused the liquidity of the dollar to collapse. So the exchange rate went down with the Turkish lira and the downward spiral began. The more the exchange rate falls, the more difficult it is to pay back the debt, and the more the Turkish economy goes into crisis, and the more exchange rate falls. Today, Turkey's foreign debts represent 60% of its GDP, and it continues to rise. The ordeal is not over yet. The day when the foreign debt will start to fall again, then yes, it will be time to invest in Turkey because the potential of its population is enormous. Just think of the undervaluation that is taking place. With Nistor, my free online management support platform, you can see that our currency valuation indicator tells us that the devaluation of the Turkish lira on its long trend will soon reach 2 standard deviations against the dollar. That's just huge. So yes, President Erdogan is making big economic mistakes because, for his own reasons, he doesn't want to raise interest rates. The problem is that inflation due to the collapse of the exchange rate on imported goods has become a cancer for Turkey. Just as Paul Volcker did in the US in 1970, a rise in interest rates, although painful, is a necessary measure. On the other hand, Turkey's alleged faults must also be put into perspective. If the liquidity of the dollar collapses in the event of a financial crisis, it is also because of the major dysfunction of international finances based on the dollar, which is called Triffin's dilemma. The economist Triffin showed that making a currency of one country a global exchange currency could not work in the long term, because one systematically finds oneself in one dead end or the other. In stage 1, the country whose currency is the world reference accumulates budget deficits. In this case, the world is not short of dollars since the US pays its deficit in dollars. Liquidity is therefore good. The problem is that the deterioration of the US internal accounts degrades confidence in the dollar. It is therefore necessary for the US to eliminate its deficits in order to remain the monetary reference. In the second stage, the US reduces its deficits or even creates surpluses. The value of the dollar goes up, but this is done at the expense of liquidity. As there are less and less dollars in the world, we see financial crises like in Turkey. The morality is that in both cases, a monetary system based on the economy of one country is by nature unstable and causes crisis abroad. As far as Europe is concerned, not everything is rosy in this story with Turkey either. It is very likely, if not known, that the Turkish companies borrowed in dollars via European and Swiss banks. For the record, Swiss banking secrecy was broken after 2008 when the Swiss found themselves short of dollars following the bankruptcy of their borrowers in dollars who could not repay. So the Swiss went to the FED to ask for a few tens of billions to plug the holes. The USA did not appreciate the joke, and the bailout of the Swiss banks in dollars was done at the cost of lifting banking secrecy. It is certain that European banks were involved in these deals. If we have not seen anything shocking in the newspapers about these banks jumping to the Turkish lira, it is because of the ECB, which organized behind the backs of the Europeans the biggest bank bailout in the history by lowering interest rates and lending at negative rates to commercial banks. In short, it would be wrong to throw stones at the Turks without looking at our own faults. We can think whatever we want about Erdogan. Yes, he committed and still commits mistakes, and yes, he is a religious fundamentalist, but for all that, Turkey is a country with a dynamic population that we must respect if we do not agree with their political choices. More broadly, Turkey's financial problems should make us question the future of our Western monetary system. We have two ways of approaching this question. The first one, a bit stupid, is to blame this country by arguing that they only had to take their time to finance themselves in a more secure way. That would have limited their growth to a few years, but at least now they would be in a much better position. That's a technically valid argument. The second way to look at it is that the West is not able to question itself when dynamic countries jump because of problems with the dollar financial system. Logically, if we are at all sincere, it is hardly acceptable to explain to emerging countries that they should work less in order to take into account our inability to offer them an international financial system capable of holding the load. As Nixon said so well, the dollar is our currency, but that's your problem. But is that really honorable? On the other hand, I understand much better why the West is on the way to succeeding in the feat of converging Chinese and Turkish interests. Once again, when we are arrogant, Asia takes advantage of this to get its own way and to advance its pawns in a very pragmatic way. Our world is in transition. This is a phrase that everyone accepts today, but we few people are trying to quantify this phenomenon and understand it. I hope that today I have participated in lifting a small part of this veil. On that note, see you soon for new videos. Ciao.
Thank you so much for watching. If you like my videos, please subscribe and don't forget to hit the bell if you want to be notified of the next episode. And if you want to invest in the stock market over the long term or diversify your financial portfolio, I'm offering you an analysis of the 8 European star stocks to have. Thanks again for watching and have a great day.